You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
So excited to have you today on this Friday review, where, of course, I get to share with you a lot of times my favorite research that I've been checking out throughout the week, some favorite books, and, of course, our super nutrient every week. Every Friday, I'm going to bring you a new nutrient, a new vitamin, a new mineral, trace mineral, herb, whatever it might be, anything that I'm studying or I'm looking into or that I've kind of noticed that a lot of people aren't aware of. Those are some of my favorite things to do, is just try to bring you deeper into this whole health field, get you excited about it, start to learn that all of these things make up our body. So when I talked about something like, let's just say zinc, or I talked about vitamin C, or started to get a little bit deeper, talk about ashwagandha, and how that affects the central nervous system, specifically the fight or flight, and how that can start to calm it down. And when you do that, it then begins to regulate all hormones in the body, and it begins to improve digestion. So these are things that I love to share with you. I hope that a few of them resonate with you, and that you begin to understand at a deeper level that truly we as human beings are made up of all of this stuff. We're made up of the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids, the proteins, the neurotransmitters. All of these great things are literally the chemicals that our bodies thrive on. And so important. Actually, that's going to be such a big topic today, is this thing about functional deficiencies. So many of us we don't know that. We've never been taught that. And that the fact is that our medical doctors, our PCPs, the people that we rely on to diagnose what these health conditions are that we have, they've never been given this information. So those are some of the things I can't wait to share with you today. The first thing I want to do before we get into all of our topics, the exercise research, of course, that I want to share with you as well, is that we've been out now for 2 weeks. 2 weeks we've been out without our daily nutritional support shake. This is the number one thing in our practice. It's the all-in-one. It's the multivitamin, the mineral, the vegan protein, the antioxidants, the daily detox, everything all in one that kids in our practice use, that adults in our practice use, that pregnant women use, that everyone's using in our practice. And so first, I want to apologize that we ran out of that shake, because I know how so many people use that as part of their daily routine. And to be honest, I do as well. And to be really honest, I haven't had it in my routine for the last week. And that's because I always hope and plan to have it in stock. So we didn't do a good job. We didn't forecast the growth of the popularity of that product. So that is our fault. We're working super hard to make sure that that never happens again. But I do want to let you know that everyone that's ordered over the past 2.5 weeks will have their shake shipped out on Monday. We apologize about that. We're going to speed up the shipping, do our very best with you. And we know that there's so many orders. And I'm going to do my very best to make sure that that never happens again. So we've already placed our next order. So the difference is, I just want to share with you one last thing before we move on, is that shake is made fresh every 2 months. Not a lot of people can say that. That is brand new, fresh ingredients, no rancidity, doesn't sit in a warehouse. We make fresh batches every 10 weeks. Then it takes, 10 days or so to get to our fulfillment center, and then it ships to you. It's one of the freshest shakes literally available. Why? Well, it's like I always say, is that I'm using this product myself. This isn't just some product that sits on a shelf and people hope to make a business about it. This was used in my clinic, in my clinical practice, years before we ever brought it online. So it's used in my practice. It's used myself, my family, and our greater community now. So again, my apologies first. And just to let you know, the update is we will be shipping to the UK, Canada, and Australia, and of course, all over the US beginning this Monday. So again, thank you so much for your support. It's because of your support that we actually sold out about a month before we expected, or that never would have happened. But it's with deep gratitude and appreciation that I can say we're going to keep continuing to grow and make sure that we stay in stock. Okay. Now, let's move on to the research. So, I did that huge book review in February, so last month, okay? 25 books read, and I'll be at my average. So my average per month is about anywhere between 12 and 16 books, never less than 12, typically right around the 15, 16 book mark. I'll be right around the 14, 15 books for this month because I have the 3 new books that I'll be finishing out for the rest of the month, and I'm already at the 10 book mark, so I could see myself sneaking in one more in there. So here's the deal, though. This month, I've been doing a lot more research. I've been really looking into deeper, what are the things that don't take a lot of our time, but can produce big benefits? That's what I want to start talking about even a little bit more on the Cabral concept. So this past Thursday, you got a taste of that. That was on episode 776, all right? This past Thursday, as in yesterday, it's why shorter workouts are the future of fitness. Okay. So that actually came from knowing the research I was going to bring to you today on Friday. Today's episode 777. So please go to stephencabral.com/777 for all of the show note links from today. But yesterday, 776 on our Training Thursday, I literally went through the top reasons why shorter workouts, they're not just like a gimmicky thing. Shorter workouts in the long term are actually going to get you better results. They honestly are. So check out that show. But the research, the reason I said, you know what, I need to create a whole show based on this research. But today, the Friday review is just to bring you some of my favorites research, my favorite super nutrient, and today functional deficiencies is a topic as well. But in terms of the exercise, I was reading through some research. This is from The Lancet, not too old, this research right here at all. And it was done on over 400,000 people, okay? And this showed literally a 15%. So the way I can remember this is actually 14%, but we'll say 15%. 15% for 15 minutes. Think about it. 15% for 15 minutes. If you give yourself 15 minutes a day of daily exercise. Now, this is the interesting thing here. That's why I wanted to bring this into today's topic. 15 minutes a day. That if you did that, you would increase your all-cause mortality, basically all causes of death, including cardiovascular disease, by 15%. That's pretty remarkable. 15% less chance of an early death by doing 15 minutes a day of exercise. But here's the more interesting part. The study showed 400,000 people. This is not a small study, right? This is close to 500,000 people. So this is a legitimate study. This is not 38 people done in Wisconsin. And nothing against Wisconsin, right? But 38 people, that's not a research study. That doesn't count. That's a sampling of people from Wisconsin, right? So this is 400,000 people across the U.S., studies from The Lancet. Here's the thing. 15 minutes of exercise daily. And it was just moderate exercise, and it could be done in 3 5-minute bouts. I found that to be amazing. The results were still the same. So what do I talk about? Well, here's the interesting thing. I keep saying the word interesting, so I'm going to stop that. All right. My big thing is I wake up every morning. I go through my morning routine. If you haven't checked that out, you have to go back to previous Cabral concepts because that means you're a new listener. All right. So in my morning routine, 5 minutes of that is spent for me doing my morning exercises. It might be close, between 5 and 10, no more than 10 minutes for sure. And I'm going through my chin up, my push up, my squats, my lunges, and my core exercise, which is usually like a boat pose, V pose, with a little bit of a called a Russian twist. So I typically go through that once, sometimes twice, but usually just once. And that is allowing me, I've talked about it before, but it moves my lymphatic system. It oxygenates my tissues. It boosts my endorphins, so I feel great. I literally feel like fantastic leaving the house. I'm already ready to start the day. I'm ready to meet the day. But now if I think about it, I've already completed about half of my 15 minutes. So, if I'm looking at all-cause mortality, and I'm thinking about this the same way you're thinking about it, like, okay, well, why not start now? I can do 15 minutes. And then later in the day, like, what would that take? Well, to be honest, let's say you never made it to the gym. What if you did that same exact, in this bodyweight routine that I was talking about, what if you did that same bodyweight routine when you got home from work before dinner? Think about that. You just did 15 minutes for the day. Or what if when you got home, you did a little Tabata using mountain climbers or using jumping jacks? That's it. You add another 7, Tabata's 4 minutes, but you could do some, other movements with it. That's your 15 minutes. I'll tell you right now, it's not that difficult to achieve that. I mean, it really isn't. If you're thinking about how can I get 3 5-minute bouts of exercise? Easy. And I mean, the truth is that hopefully you're working out 2 to 3 days a week for a legitimate 20-minute, 40-minute workout. But then the other days of the week, some bodyweight exercises, some jumping jacks, some jumping on a trampoline, doing some rebounding, a little bit of cardio, maybe more than a brisk walk. and you're set. You're good to go. So this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at all these different, we'll call them hacks. I hate that word, but we'll call them hacks in order for you, I would say, not only to live a longer life. Sure, hopefully most of us want to live a longer life. I truly believe that if you don't want to live a longer life, you're missing something. You're missing a really big aspect to the enjoyment you're getting out of life. Because if a lot of people are enjoying life, well, they want to do more of that, right? So that's a big thing. Listen to Mindset Motivation Mondays if you don't want to live a long life, because I believe you're missing something. And that's so important because every minute of every year should count. It really should. I totally believe that. But here's the other thing, is that by doing these small things, not only are we hoping to increase our lifespan, but I would say even more importantly, and this is more important, at least for me, is that I want to make every year count. I don't want my 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, we'll call hundreds, but 90s to be decrepit. I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to be walking around arthritic. I don't want to have low energy. I don't want to have low mood. I want to be able to really play with my grandkids like I play with my kids today. I want to have that level of energy. And then maybe one day, I see great grandkids, getting ahead of myself there. But here's the deal. That's what I want. And do I achieve it or not? Who knows? But I can at least strive for it. And that's really what it's all about. So hopefully you can kind of take that research, 15 minutes, moderate exercise, not sprints, not anything. Sure, you could do that, but moderate exercise daily. And if you miss a day, honestly, no big deal. But keep it going. How many more days than not can you do that? I just think that that's the wave of the future, is these little things that are so, so important. Okay, let's move on. Functional deficiencies is what I want to talk about next. This is where we get confused with conventional medicine, meaning like your PCP that you go to, okay? That male or female who went to medical school never studied vitamins and minerals and all of these nutrients in this way. They didn't. What they looked at, they were taught to look at your blood work. And this is good. This is why we need PCPs and MDs and conventional medicine doctors and specialists. It's not a bad thing. I've said this before. I'm super grateful that we have conventional medicine, and especially all these life-saving surgeries and life-saving medications. I'm not anti-medication. I'm not. I'm pro-people. And I just know that the medications we put people on are, yes, helping in the short term, hurting in the long term. That's it. That's the bottom line. They truly are. And you can look at the research and see this for yourself. Okay, someone's on a statin. What happens when you're on a statin? It weakens your heart. Okay, it doesn't allow cholesterol to build up, but you still die from a weak heart. That's the truth. Look it up. You can look at how statins cause cardiac myopathy. Just type that into Google. It's not my research. Again, I'm not the researcher. I'm not in a lab. I'm a clinician. I put the research into practice. I see if it works in the real world. If it does, I keep doing it. If it doesn't, I don't. I don't care what the research says if it doesn't work in the real world. I have no need for that. My need is to help people. My need is not to try to replicate research. My need is to help people achieve their goals and rebalance their body. But here's the other thing about functional deficiencies, is that we have MDs, PCPs looking at blood work. And again, good that we do, but the problem is those don't show up in blood work. It's why I shared with you episode 774 this week, okay? Why running your blood work is not enough. Now, I did say on episode 767 what to ask for in your blood work, because you do need it done. You actually need to see if there's a disease process taking place in your body. But it will not let you know the precursors to disease, which is what I do in my practice. If someone comes to me with a diagnosed disease, or they ask on the weekend Cabral house calls, which will be here tomorrow, then I can say, okay, great. So we know what your dis-ease state of your body is, but do we know how you got there? That's what matters to me. Of course, I care what your disease is, whether it's Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, SIBO, Crohn's, colitis, Barrett's esophageal, or a certain type of cancer. I care. It's not that I don't. It's just that I'm not going to treat the disease. That's not what a naturopath does. What they do is they look at what caused the disease, and a lot of these things are functional-based deficiencies. These functional deficiencies are very well known. They're spoken about when you run an organic acids test. And I'll link that up today, episode 777. When you run an organic acids test, you get to see your functional deficiencies of B vitamins, B12, B2, B5, B6. You also look at biotin, you look at coenzyme Q10, you look at vitamin C, which is just crucially important. Those are important to look at, okay? You'll look at phosphorus as well. You look at also folate. You look at your body's ability to actually use folate. All of these things are very important to look at. It's very simple. Again, simple to look at. Are you using it? Yes or no? Because you'll see the waste product. So again, you can run B12 in a blood test. I don't. I have no interest in someone running B12 in a blood test. What I really care about is looking at something called methylmalonic acid. Methylmalonic acid is how much B12 was used up, the end product of B12. That's what I care about, not what's in your blood. That's fine. Did you use it? Did you not use it? I don't know. But I do know if I can see the waste markers from methylmalonic acid. So this is how a functional medicine practitioner would actually look at your labs. And that's the important thing to look at. Now, for your minerals, you would run a hair tissue mineral analysis. Why? Okay, good to run it on your blood work because if one of your electrolytes is off, calcium, magnesium, sodium, or potassium, there's big issues. Huge issues in the body because your body should always maintain homeostasis. So when it's off in your blood, that means well before that, something was off in the tissues. That's why I'm telling you right now, so important. I call it my starter kit. Again, I'll link it up, starter kit. Hair tissue mineral analysis, organic acid. If you don't know what labs to run, you run those too. And that's because it will tell you heavy metals. It's not the only way to run heavy metals. People ask, is it the best way? Well, you have to ask, what are you looking for? I'm looking at major heavy metal toxicity. And if it's being excreted into the hair, well, then I know that it's not even able to be stored in the adipose tissue. I don't need people to do a whole chelation-based test because during my protocols, I'm having them improve liver function. They're doing a Dr. Cabral detox. They're getting their body to naturally be able to eliminate these things on their own. Then after that, they're doing things like sauna and they're doing things like maybe self-massage or dry brushing. And then we'll do maybe a natural heavy metal detox, which is simple. Again, I'll link up heavy metal detox as well, but it's as easy as doing the cracked cell chlorella, the cilantro, the vitamin C, and then using a biofilm disruptor. And you do it for 42 days. Again, I've given the research on that before, but the research on that shows that you will eliminate about 92% to 93% of heavy metals like lead and mercury from your body in 42 days. So this is why I love the research, and that's why I love putting it into practice as well. So organic acids test, vitamins, obviously it shows you 75 other biomarkers. It's an enormous test that we'd use for gut function as well, but hair tissue mineral analysis as well for the minerals. So great things. It looks at functional deficiencies. Of course, health insurance does not cover them. Why? Because we're not diagnosing disease. Again, a naturopath, a health coach, a health practitioner, they're not going to diagnose you with the disease. It's not their job. It's out of their scope of practice. The goal is to get you healthy, not to treat the disease. Because remember, when you go to your PCP, again, this is not all PCPs, but I'm lumping it into a group. Yes, I am. And that's just the way it works. So here's the deal. If you're given a medication, you're masking a symptom. That's the bottom line. Do I have a problem with a doctor giving someone a medication for a short period of time in order to make sure if they have like high blood pressure, they don't have a stroke? Of course, nothing wrong with that. What if someone's, really has a suicidal depressive tendency? Do I have a problem with them using an antidepressant to make sure that they get them, or an antipsychotic to get them out of that stage? I do not. I absolutely do not. But I know that that's not the long-term solution for anything at all. And so because of that, I say, okay, medications, how long? 12 weeks? 16 weeks? Okay, let's make sure that we can get your body balanced in that period of time so that then you can wean off your medication with your PCP. That's how we do it. So anyway, functional medicine lab test, uncover functional deficiencies or toxicities the body has too much of. And that is how you rebalance the body so that on your blood work, there's no dis-ease-based state. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, always feel free to follow up with questions, though. I love answering questions. I really do. And I'm happy to do that. This is truly my life's work. It will never end. I will end before my life's work ends. So hopefully that helps. All right. What is up next? Well, it's our super nutrient of the week. Our super nutrient of the week this week is manganese. I chose manganese because no one's really ever heard of manganese. So I figured, why not talk about this mineral that probably maybe 1 in 100 people have ever heard about, right? Although it's a mineral that we this is an essential trace mineral, trace being small amount, trace mineral, okay? This is something that we need. It's not like the calcium, the magnesium that we hear about all the time, but this is something just as crucial for the body. The difference is we need such a small amount of it. The average adult only needs 2 to 2.6 milligrams a day. 2.6 milligrams would be more for like a larger human being or for a woman who's pregnant or nursing and her needs increase. And that's just obviously natural because you're supporting life. And so your needs increase as well. So with manganese, 2 milligrams is really all you're looking for per day. Most people are going to get it through a good nutritional supplement, meaning like a activated multivitamin that also includes the trace minerals, right? Because some multivitamins, think about the word multivitamin, they include all the vitamins, but they don't include all the minerals. So it's really important because your multivitamin should be a multi-mineral as well, meaning that it should have all of the trace minerals, and that includes the zinc, the selenium, all of those. Really, really important, okay? So that you get everything on a daily basis. And when you look at your multivitamin, what I want you to do is turn the label around, all right? Turn that label around and look, does my multivitamin have somewhere around 2 milligrams? That's it. 1.5 to 3 milligrams, totally fine. Most will have that. And that's because 2 milligrams is 100% of the RDA. So I'm going to tell you a little bit. Why don't I do that? I'm going to tell you why you need this vitamin, why it's so important, and how you're going to be able to get it from a lot of food-based sources, which is why you don't want to over-supplement with it. Let me talk about that in a moment because I don't want you to over-supplement with manganese. Really, really important. Okay, so what I want to do right now is actually talk about what manganese is good for. So that'll give you a little basis point. Okay, so manganese is extremely important for overall bone growth, okay? It helps to metabolize cholesterol. It actually helps to promote good digestive enzyme formation. A lot of people don't know that, but that's one of the big things that manganese also does. And it helps to boost the immune system, especially along with zinc and selenium. Those boost the immune system and actually help with detoxification and removal of free radical damage. What are free radicals? Well, think of them as like invaders inside of the body that are creating inflammation and havoc and also leading to things such as oxidative damage that looks like wrinkles and fine lines and brown spots on the skin, those types of things, okay? Think of that as oxidative-based damage, and manganese, zinc, vitamin C, all those antioxidants play a big role in blocking that oxidation in our body and removing the free radicals. Okay, so a couple of things that we want to look at as well is that a lot of people out there may be functionally deficient in manganese. And what does that mean? Well, it means that their ability to promote new bone growth is a little bit more limited. They have a little bit more joint pain than normal because they're a little low in manganese. Their mood, might have a little bit more moodiness or irritability just because it's slight low in manganese. Now, are they super deficient? No. Would ever show up on blood work? No, but it might show up on a hair tissue mineral analysis. And then maybe not as energetic. Maybe not full-blown adrenal fatigue or chronic fatigue syndrome, but lower energy. What about infertility and hormone imbalance? One of those things that's needed, crucial, again, such a small amount, 2 milligrams, but still needed in terms of balancing hormones and making sure that for both men and women, there's no infertility. Again, manganese and zinc actually works really well together for men too in healthy sperm count and healthy sperm as well. Weakened glucose regulation, okay? What does that mean? Well, the body's ability to actually regulate blood sugar, and this includes type 2 diabetes. So those with type 2 diabetes may be functionally deficient in manganese, meaning that the stores in the body, they don't have enough manganese in the cells. The other thing is, this is being studied right now, potentially higher levels of cholesterol when manganese is deficient, okay? Really important to look at all of these things because, again, they're not necessarily disease-based states, but osteoporosis, poor bone growth, okay, could have something to do with manganese for sure. Now, a lot of times that's vitamin D, that's magnesium, that's calcium, that's vitamin K, there's other things as well, but manganese plays a role, okay? The joints, the irritability, the mood, the lower energy, all of those things, very, very important. But here's one more thing I want to add, is that a lot of women, this men too, but more so in women, who are anemic may have an issue with manganese as well as iron. And here's why. The two are almost totally linked in nature, all right? When we see iron, we're typically going with a little bit of manganese, but for sure, when we see manganese, we're getting iron. Now, what are some of the foods on a daily basis where you might be taking in manganese? And it's a short list. It's pretty straightforward, but a lot of the gluten-free grains and some of the more ancient grains that do include some gluten, but they don't contain the same hybridized gluten, not the same wheat germ agglutination, so the kind of the processed gluten that we're talking about. I'll talk about that in the future as well. That's used as almost a preservative, that sticky preservative. But grains such as brown rice, buckwheat, oats, amaranth, and some of the more ancient grains such as an ancient rye or teff. Those, about 1 cup, would provide you with the 2 milligrams per day. And then also beans. Some of those beans are white beans, black beans, Adzuki beans, and then chickpeas. Chickpeas as well have a decent amount of manganese as well. How much? About a half a cup to a cup of beans. That's a fair amount of beans, that is. But certainly if you were to mix beans with brown rice, well, then you'd certainly get your full serving of manganese for the day. You can see why this is not difficult to get enough manganese for the day, right? This is not a challenging thing. But also a couple nuts, hazelnuts and macadamia. Those are two of my favorite flavorful nuts for sure, and those are an easy way to get manganese as well. Now, this is why though. So again, I'm sharing manganese with you not because I necessarily believe you're deficient, although if you have any of those symptoms that I talked about before, you possibly could be. But the reason is that I believe you need to know that all of these vitamins and minerals, they make up your body. And when you start to begin to understand when you're deficient, that even at a tissue level of these things, it can start to throw off the body in very specific ways. And that's why we look at these in a lab test. We say, oh, that matches up with that symptom. That matches up with that symptom. And some of them are a little harder they take like 8 weeks or 12 weeks or 16 weeks to really build up those stores. But for manganese, if you're taking a daily activated multi or using something like the daily nutritional support powder, well, you're going to be getting on a daily basis. That's not going to be a challenge for you at all. But the important thing is that you have the knowledge and that each week you're accumulating more knowledge with each super nutrient and you understand this is how the human body works. The human body does not work with pharmaceuticals, right? Those are all foreign to the body. If you have high cholesterol, you don't have a statin deficiency. I love that line. If you have high blood pressure, you do not have a beta blocker deficiency. You don't have a calcium channel blocker deficiency. You don't have any of those. What you have is a functional deficiency in a vitamin, mineral, amino acid, whatever it might be, or you have a toxicity, too much of this, too much of a heavy metal, too much of the plastics, the estrogen-based plasticizers in your body. Any one of those things can lead to a dis-ease-based state in the body. And I just want you to kind of just get used to hearing that, because as you start to hear it over and over, it sinks in. You say, okay, I have something wrong with me right now. What's my deficiency or what is my toxicity? You find that out, you figured it out, you can get better within a period of no more usually than, like I said, 6 to 12 weeks. That's about it. And then you start to reinforce that just over time. So every 3 months, you're a little healthier. Every 3 months, you're healthier. Next thing you know, you look back a year later, you're a different human being. Not only because 97% of your body is completely renewed, but also you've done so much work. The journey has just continued. And you feel great in both mind and body. That's what I want for you. Hopefully today's episode was helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope to be chatting with you tomorrow on our weekend host calls where we answer our community's questions each and every weekend. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rain barrel.